I wanted to explore with you something I talk about all the time, and just to invite you to really get that much more acquainted with this astonishing aspect of reality, which is so obvious but tends to get overlooked, and seems like our language and conceptualizing has a lot to do with are seeming to miss this about life, about reality, and that is its aliveness. And just as you're sitting here, feeling how alive what we call life is, what we call the moment is, what we call this, right? I mean, is there anything static about this moment? Is the moment, as you feel what's here, as you perceive what's here, even describing it as what's here suggests it has a kind of stasis to it, doesn't it? Oh, here it is, right? Here is what we call, whatever we call it. Let's call it the moment, the now. Well, here it is, the now. Presto. What is showing up, right? But we typically think that this is something that's showing up as something, and we can, through the use of words and concepts, we can designate it. We can say, this is what it is. This is how it is. It's this. It's this way. We can characterize the way that it is. But just feel your experience, which, of course, what you're always doing, feeling your experience. And notice the absolute impossibility of saying how it is. Feel how utterly ungraspable it is in terms of being able to determine it, right? This is how it is. Because if you were to be putting your conceptual finger on it and going, I'm identifying this is what it is, this is how it is, it's this way, right? You're basically coming to a conclusion about it so that you can put it in whatever category or box the interpreting consciousness puts things in, puts the moment in. The transformation of what we call the moment is instantaneous. Can you feel that? Feel the way in which thought, interpretation, let's say, can never catch up to this dynamism. And because of that, reality eludes capture by any thought. You feel that? I mean, here's this entire, what we call the world, inhabited by all of the stuff that we think of as constituting the world of that's being perceived, right? The world of objects, the world of people, places, and things, and all the experiences we have, and all the ways it seems to be, and the way we seem able to render it conceptually and linguistically. And simply looking at what's actually here experientially will reveal that there's not something here that can be thought about. Yeah, I mean, it's, I can give it different words. I can say that it's alive, it's dynamic, it's ever changing. It's this constant flow, right? And that obviously hints at it in some sense. It hints at how it really isn't experientially, it is not like something arrives and then transforms into something else. The forms, the apparent forms that we can seem to identify, and language keeps telling us, in a sense, reinforcing this sense of like, oh, there it is. I've got a grasp on it. It's the moment never actually arrives as something, as something. And in that sense, it's accurate. The deepest truth, in a sense, is that there are no things. Reality is free of thingness. It's free of being something. Because it's seeming to become something, it's becoming something else as it seems to become something, and then becomes something else, but never, again, it never arrives as a fixed, static thing, because it's, like I say, there's you're watching a movie or video on YouTube or something, and you hit the pause button, there it is. Now I can see it, everything's moving, and then you hit the pause button. I really want to look at it carefully to see like what all these things are. Because, when they're moving, it's hard to exactly figure out, right? Because it's dynamic. You can't, you can't grasp hold of it and say, how is it? Because it's moving. And so I'll hit the pause button. So if you try to hit the pause button right now to try to identify the moment with thought, there's no pause button. It's just, reality has no pause. It has no, the river of reality keeps flowing and moving. And this is astonishing. Truly, I feel how astonishing that is. Astonishing, and particularly in the sense of how it completely deviates from our ordinary notions of things. That here I am, identifiable John Aston, sitting in his living room where he conducts his Zoom meetings, and talking to and with a bunch of people who he's met before, either in person or on Zoom, or some I haven't met maybe. And, this whole way of construing what's happening. And meanwhile, the actual reality is unconstruable, if that's a word. It's not, you feel that? It's it's free of being anything. And in its being free, it's free of all the labels. It's free of all the interpretations. It's free of um, it's free of everything. It's uncontained by any limit. It's unlimited, wholly unlimited. It's not, it's that explosively free. And that's what you are. You are that explosive freedom from all designations and descriptions and labels and interpretations and problems that seem to be suggested strongly often by our interpretations. And this idea that there's something in the way, that there's something out of place, there's something that's not quite right, there's something that needs resolution, there's something that needs to be avoided or grasped hold of or fixed or corrected or controlled, or, you see, all of that activity that we engage in as humans, sort of, by and large. Wow, if I could just fix this, if I could just correct the moment, the way the moment seems to be. But the moment, what are you correcting? There's not something there to correct, because there's not a thing to correct, you see? That's how free it is. That's how intrinsically, inherently free it is of every concept. Because as I said, the concepts, the interpretive faculties, of course, is reality interpreting itself, funny enough, because there's just this, and whatever interpretation is, which is also ungraspable mystery. But let's just call it what it seems to be, this seeming rendering of reality interpretively. It can't, it seems able to render itself and approximate itself through concepts. Oh, this is kind of like this, right? And this is what language does. It's sort of like, what are you doing right now? Like I'm talking to you. So I just interpreted this, but what's really like, it's really possible to collapse what's happening right now into that. It's almost like it's useful, I guess. It would seem we could say that interpretations have their place. There's nothing wrong with them. Here they are, all the interpretations. They're also free of problem, right? Because even the interpretations are not what we think they are. Nothing is what we think it is. That's why even the interpretations are not problematic. But believing the interpretations have effectively captured reality, and then out of that can come forth that sense of the implications of the interpretations, when they feel problematic in one sense, and that they require some addressing and fixing and repairing, and right, something's wrong about us, something's wrong about the world, and so on. Seeing that is just one perspective, and that there's another perspective that's available to us, a perspective that's being experienced, which is free of all of that interpretation. Well, that has a very different sense to it, doesn't it? And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to have a different experience to recognize what I'm talking about. It's because every experience is the same way. Every experience is the same fundamental dynamism. We think this experience is different from that experience, right? And in one sense, there's nothing but this uniqueness. Like the reality appears as every one of its appearances is unique from every other one of its appearances in terms of how it seems to be, how it's presenting, right? But at the root of all of this seeming difference and distinction is the fundamental, ungraspable, unresolvable nature of it, the infinity of it, the endlessness of it. It's incredible to just feel into I was talking last week about the magic show of life, and to feel how this instant that we call the instant, this that's appearing in this instant, that it never becomes a thing because of its, right? Like if this was my hand, the unfolding of the moment, like at what point does the hand unfolding take a specific shape you can identify? It doesn't, does it? Because it doesn't go hang out for a while and then go and hang out for a while and then go hang out for a while. It's just feel that the constant opening, 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 never arriving at something fixed. In that sense, there's no forms. That's the fundamentally empty of identity nature of this. But that's never here for any time, unborn, never here for any time, somehow appears as an entire world that we can identify. As you and me and all of the stuff of our lives. And yet when you go to look for what all of this is, you don't find it. You don't find it. So it's curiously has this completely bizarre, if you will, a characteristic of being here, but not being here simultaneously. And that's not some wordplay. That's literally what this is like. Like you could feel some, I don't know, state of mind like fear, and it feels like something identifiable and distinct from another state like joy. But when you go to determine what that is, it's just it constantly moves away, constantly eludes capture, like a receding horizon, because it's constantly changing. It's not an it that's constantly changing. It's just change. It's just transformation. Just. And well, why am I saying that? Well, based where's that conclusion coming from of the nature of this is just by looking. I mean, it's an empirical exploration. Like, how is this? What is this? Well, when I look, I can't say. It's simple. I really can't say, even though it seems like I can say from another sense, but that's just by not looking carefully enough. Essentially overlooking the fact that every flash instant it's different, and then it's different, and then it's different. So characterizing it as being a certain way is a very rough, at best, approximation of what's actually here. And we could call the discovery of the ungraspable nature of this freedom, because there's no things that are bound, nor anyone who is bound. There's just openness, complete freedom. Right now, just sitting here.